So people have been asking, so I'm going to be doing a review of 3 different alternatives of Acqua di Gio Profumo. This is, quite honestly, probably the most popular from the line outside of the original Pour Homme. It is a darker, a richer, a very, I guess more kind of interesting version of Acqua di Gio. It has notes of patchouli and incense that really are kind of the standouts that differ this from the original. It smells richer, again, it smells more mature, it smells more formal. Quite honestly, it smells less synthetic. It is a very popular fragrance. It was on a ton of top 10 lists. There's been a lot of rumors about this being discontinued. This was literally being talked about, as much as Created Ventus, as Parfums de Marly Leighton. For a while, this was all the rage. It has since been kind of dropped off. People don't really talk about it anymore. I love it. It's one of my top 5 fragrances. If I were to only keep 5, this would certainly be in there. So anyway, due to the rumors of it being discontinued, I have 3 bottles of this, by the way, and one of them is a huge bottle. It's a 6.2 ounce or whatever. But due to the rumors of this being discontinued, I wanted to do a, comparison review of potential alternatives that you could pick up for when this is no longer available or when prices just skyrocket. So I'm going to be reviewing 3. The first is 2 of these I've already done reviews on, but just separate videos. First is Maison Alhambra Eau de Parfum Georges de Profumo. Obviously a very obvious knockoff of the original. The next one is something that surprisingly, Al Jazab Silver. Now the notes on this, if you look up the notes on this, they are very green. They do not really align with, the Profumo. It's something that is actually kind of surprising because it smells pretty much a dead ringer. So the notes on this are off. But it is a clone of Acqua di Gio Profumo. And then the last one I will be reviewing is from a, more, I guess, traditional clone house that's not as mass marketed. It's from King Fragrances, and this is called Dark Sea. This is their version of Acqua di Gio Profumo. So, let's get into it. I'm going to start by spraying the original. I'm going to keep it to 1 spray because I don't want this whole room to be filled with it. They are pretty well projecting fragrances, the original and the clones, and I don't want to be just smelling it in the air and not really being able to do an actual comparison. Okay, I lied. I'm going to spray twice. For some reason, I'm not really picking it up as much as I thought. There we go. That was a spray. Okay, so that's the original. Put the bottle by it so I don't get them confused. This is Georges de Profumo. More of a very kind of condensed, almost like projectile spray. Okay. This one's going to be, I'll tell you what, it's smelling good in here already. This is Jazab Silver. You can smell it, but right. And then lastly, we are going to do Dark Sea. All right, let them sit for a minute because I'm getting all of them in the air. So, again, Profumo is one of the most popular flankers of Acqua di Gio. Right under that would probably be Profondo. More recently, Profondo Lights. It's been, very kind of hyped up. It is a flanker of a flanker. I think it's honestly better than Profondo. It's more interesting. It's greener. It's more marine. It just has more going on. To me, Profondo is kind of just basic. From there, Absolute is pretty. It's called Absolute. That is pretty popular. It's a sweet kind of bubblegummy, Invictus-y kind of vibe you'll get from that with the Acqua di Gio DNA. To me, that kind of takes one of the furthest departures from the original DNA. There's Absolute Instinct, which is kind of a older man version of Acqua di Gio. It's very woody and just kind of more mature. That's not popular, at least not as popular. So let's just get to this. From those who have seen my video comparing Georges de Profumo from Alhambra, and it's no different now than it was then, The main difference between these two that you get is the original is much richer. There's the patchouli and the incense are much more prominent. It just projects more. It is very much more loud and rich than the clone. The clone's got the DNA there. The Acqua di Gio, or the George Di Profumo by Alhambra. It is close, but you know, again, it's almost like you gotta spray it to get it. Now, when you wear it, you pick it up more. I will say that, but it is a kind of more subdued version. Now, Al Jazab Silver is much the same. You get that DNA, but it's not as loud. It's certainly not as loud as the original. It also is slightly less sweet than the original and Alhambra. You get the core components though of that DNA. It's just is not as rich and not as kind of loud. But both the clones so far are more subdued, don't project as well, and they're not as just as rich in the scent profile itself as the original. And lastly, I got Dark Sea by Kings. You can see I use quite a bit of this. This one is definitely louder than the other two clones. In that regard, it is in line with the original. It's sweeter than Jazab Silver. And George Di Profumo. I think this is probably okay. It's sweeter than the other two clones. It is still not as sweet as the original. But I think as far as the DNA goes, Dark Sea by King Fragrances is the closest. But here's the thing. It's the closest, and I will also say, speaking to performance, it lasts the longest. Jazab Silver probably lasts the least long on me. I think I get about 4 hours on that. George Di Profumo, I get about 6. The original will last me easily 8 to 10 hours. This will last me, I would say, 6 to 7. So this lasts the longest. I think it's the closest, scent profile-wise. But the price point, and it's not bad for a clone, but when you compare them, this is $32.99 before a sale, which they usually have sales, but for a 30 mil. This, I believe, was around 30 for a 3.3 ounce. And this was around 40 for, again, the 3.3 ounce as well. So is it worth buying this for nearly the same price as this, but getting about a third of the amount? Well, it depends on your own interest. If all you care about is performance and it being as close as possible, yes, this is the best. But if you're looking for the best bang for your buck and you're not one of those people who need all-day performance, I would go with something like this. Honestly, I think George Di Profumo, even though it's not a dead ringer to the original, is definitely better than Al Jazab Silver, in my opinion. So closeness-wise, I would rank them like this. Jazab Silver would be on the bottom. George Di Profumo would be second. Kings would be first. Now, there is a new one, but performance-wise, it would go Kings. Well, it'd be in that same line, closeness and performance-wise. Price point-wise, though, all around best, considering price point, quality, longevity, scent profile, I still think this is the best pickup. That said, there is a new one that just came out, I believe, by Lattafa. So I will get that, and I will do a comparison. Now, I probably won't compare all three of them again. But what I'll do is I will compare that to at least Kings and George Di Profumo and give you kind of a general update on which I think is the best all around for bang for your buck, okay? Anyway, that is that. Hopefully this was helpful. Again, there's been rumors it's getting discontinued. It's been going back and forth. It's still available. People from Armani say it's discontinued. Then somebody else will reach out to Armani and say it's not discontinued. It's just out of stock. It's been going back and forth for years. So who knows what's actually going on with it. I think the word was that the Eau de Parfum, which just came out recently, it's the most recent flanker from the line. that was going to replace Profumo. I could see that. I don't think it's better than Profumo, but I could see why they would want to replace it with that. That is certainly more true to the original DNA. It is more, I think, versatile and appeals to a younger crowd than maybe Profumo does. Whereas you can also wear it if you're older. It's kind of more versatile like the original really was. So I could see that. But anyway, this is where these kind of stand right now. If you have any questions, put it in the comments section. Otherwise, like I said, as soon as I get the new Lattafa, I will do a comparison of that with these as well.